Welcome to Rainy Day Rabbit Holes,
a uniquely Pacific Northwest podcast.
I'm Shay.
I'm Jody.
And on each episode, we will be sharing the mysterious, quirky, and fascinating stories of the PNW.
So grab your North Face jacket, strap on your Tevas, grab yourself a cup of Northwest roasted coffee, and
let's fall down the rabbit hole. Jody, what would you do if you found a human foot on the beach?
Be paralyzed with fear, and then go into action.
Have I got a story for you? The Pacific Northwest never fails to deliver on weirdness. We've got a ton of serial killers, cults, and now disembodied feet on the beach.
That's creepy.
It is. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about the Salish Sea human foot discoveries. But first, can you do us a favor? If you like listening to our show, can you please write a review on Apple Podcasts? You can also give us a 5-star review on Spotify or wherever you're listening. And don't forget to hit that follow button. Okay, Jody, you ready to get into some weird stuff?
Oh, I love weird stuff. This is why we got started on this. This right here.
Weird stuff.
Weird stuff.
Okay, our story takes us up north to our much nicer neighbors in Vancouver, British Columbia.
Much nicer neighbors.
That's Canada.
Yeah, they are very much known for their niceness.
So on the shores of False Creek Bay, not far from Granville Island, is a cobblestone shopping plaza with a giant anvil art installation. So you know an anvil, something that you would hit a hammer on.
Yep.
It's giant. It's like 20 feet tall. It's huge.
Well, who's running that show?
Well,
who's running that anvil?
It's an art installation.
Oh, got
you. It just sits there. Here you can sit and enjoy views of Vancouver's skyline or admire the many sailboats in the marina. The name of the shopping plaza? Get this. Leg in Boot Square.
Leg in Boot Square.
Leg hyphen in hyphen boot square.
I feel like somebody made the name up one day when they were trying to remind themselves what they were supposed to do in the morning as they got ready.
Gotta put my leg in the boot.
I gotta put my leg in the boot. I'm gonna make a note of that.
Underwear on first square.
And now it's the name.
Which makes you wonder how it came to be named Leg in Boot Square.
Okay, I have a feeling based on our intro. It's not about putting one leg in at a time.
Nope.
It's not like putting your pants on one leg at a time. It's not about putting one boot on at a time. I have a feeling this is a whole different story.
It is. So here's the story. In the summer of 1886, our favorite time period.
I had no idea we go back this far. Oh my gosh. When we started this journey.
Hey,
for those that don't know, Shay and I don't tell each other our rabbit holes. So literally what she was bringing to me, I am hearing for the first time.
Yes.
I knew this story was coming, had no idea it went back that far.
Well, and we do seem to hang out a lot in the late 1800s in our podcast, don't we? We did the Chinatown. We did the beginning of the immigrants here in the Pacific Northwest. Right. We like
that old history.
We like that 1880s time. Okay. So in the summer of 1886, not long after the Great Fire that destroyed much of Vancouver, a half of a human leg washed up on the shore of False Creek, still wearing a knee-high leather boot.
Male or female?
You know, they did
not say.
At
least the boot.
They did not say. I'm assuming male.
Okay.
Because remember, they made skirts and high heels so that women couldn't run away.
Right.
That's why
that's what I was wondering. Do I picture a high heel boot or do I picture a dude heel boot?
I think it's a dude heel boot.
Okay, got it.
There was no sign of the rest of the body. Vancouver Police Department constables were baffled. But you know what? Detective work is really hard. You know what's easier than actually pounding the pavement looking for answers?
Oh, can I guess?
Sure.
Making assumptions and going with it.
Or letting the answers come to you.
Oh. I've been watching too much ID channel.
At this time, the police station headquarters was a tent at the foot of Carroll Street, thanks to the recent fire. So they mounted the leg to a pole outside their quote-unquote headquarters and just waited for someone to come and claim it.
Do you recognize this? What?
Does this belong to you?
It's in the lost and found?
Can you imagine you're like digging through the lost and found through coats and
there it
water
is.
bottles?
I've been looking for this everywhere.
Oh my God. I forgot I left this here.
Oh my God. What?
So,
Okay, and at what point does it stink?
well, and there it hung for 2 weeks, rotting and stinking. But it was the 1880s, so everything probably smelled really bad. So it kind of just blended in with the feces that were probably in the gutter and
right. Well,
sure.
we used to let our livestock just roam the streets, letting their
Well, and if a fire had burnt down and there's no sanitation, the gutters are flowing with human feces too, I'm sure. It was a real sexy time. Let's go back there.
Yep.
Let's make America great again.
You know,
like
this
the
is
1880s.
you know,
Sorry.
you know. You're going to probably have to cut that, but yes, this is what I think every time somebody says that. Let's make America great again. Make America great again. I'm like, for fucking who?
Great. Okay. So
not even you. Like literally not even you. You're swimming in sewage right now.
Bathing was a like once a week affair if you were rich. Okay.
No one.
All right. So it was already in an advanced state of decomp when they found it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I could only imagine what it smelled like after 2 weeks in the summer sun.
Oh my God,
this
summer
was
sun.
in the summer.
And it washed up on shore. So it'd been in the Salish Sea, which I do love, but does have its own smell. So it's already been decaying in the Salish
and then
Sea.
they nail it up to a pole and let it sit there in the August summer sun.
Found January 24th on this beach. Is this yours?
So when no one-legged man showed up, they just threw it away. Some stories say they gave it to a dog, but I think that's a little salacious. I think that's a little Salish Sea. I think that's a little salacious.
They gave it so one rumor is they gave it to a dog to like eat. I'm assuming
it was
chew
just
on the bone.
One blurb. Okay,
Not to where I'm like, is this a 3-leg dog?
This story
that
may
needs a leg?
not be completely accurate. I found accounts that discredit this story.
Okay.
Possibly,
like the whole story.
Well,
not just the dog part.
That there was telling that perhaps they found more than just the leg.
Okay.
That they didn't hang it out on a pole for 2 weeks. It may not be completely accurate, but it was a good enough of a story to name this shopping plaza after it.
Well, it's a legend now. Whether it's true or not,
exactly.
It's a legend.
It makes a great story.
Yeah.
And that was not the last time a disarticulated foot was found on Vancouver's shores.
Wow.
But first, we're going to take a little break.
All right.
Because I want to share with you a podcast that I discovered this week.
Oh, wow.
It is quickly becoming one of my favorites because I love messed up stories and history.
Right. And I think that our listeners do too. I mean, that's why they're here, right?
Yes. They're not just here for vanilla history, right? They want to know the weird, the wacky, and the messed up. And this podcast delivers just that. It's called Effed Up History. That's EFFED, Effed Up History. It's hosted by Christina Yeager, who is a historian specializing in the early modern witch trials. We're talking like the 1700s, 1600s, 1700s. That is her specialty.
Salem type.
Exactly. The podcast tells stories from history and myths that are super effed up. She lives in Salem, Massachusetts, and she even gives tours of Salem.
Oh, wow. And she knows the history of this.
And she knows the history.
Oh,
so Salem's really big because of the Salem witch trials. It's a huge tourist area and it has a lot of history. And she is the person to go to for history on Salem, Massachusetts.
Awesome.
So Rich and I have been talking about heading back to the East Coast to visit his family for years now. And so now that I know that she's out there and she gives these tours, I'm like, we should make a trip out to the East Coast. I really, really love this podcast because she gives hilarious commentary on these messed up tales. She's sarcastic and she goes on rants with lots of swearing. Love it.
Right. My type. My style.
Yes.
My style.
She's got episodes covering not only the Salem witch trials, but stories about the mythologies of the Zodiac, cryptids, Hamilton, the Tudors, Norse gods, Troy, you name it. And you can find her podcast on Spotify and all the things wherever you get your podcasts. You can even go to her Effed Up History website to listen to the episodes there.
And that's Effed Up History starting with an E.
Yes, it's EFFED.
Yeah.
Effed Up history. You can find it on Spotify easily, but we will also link that in the show notes.
What about Apple?
Apple too,
All
everywhere.
right.
All
So
the
when we
things.
go to Apple, if we listen on Apple, we should also leave a review.
Yes, on Apple, you can actually leave a review that you can write out and say great things about the podcast. It's not just a 5-star rating like on Spotify. It is definitely one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. All right. Well, we should get back to the Salish Sea Human Foot Discoveries. What do you think? First off, I want to let you know that I am keeping a count of all the feet we're talking about. So at the end, we will wrap it up.
Excellent.
So we've already talked about foot number 1, which when you read about this online, it often does not include the 2 feet that were found before 2007, but I'm including them here. Okay, because I think it's a good part of the history. All right. So according to a Wikipedia page dedicated to this mystery, which is literally just called the Salish Sea Human Foot Discoveries, it's very thorough. And this was the source for much of this episode. The Vancouver Sun reported on July 30th, 1914, that another leg and a high boot was discovered on a beach near the mouth of the Salmon River. Fast forward to the summer of 2007, so almost 100 years later. On August 20th, a little 12-year-old girl was walking on a beach on Jebediah Island in British Columbia with her family. She came across a blue and white Adidas, or excuse me, as my brother says, an Adidas sneaker.
Of course he does.
She came across a blue and white Adidas sneaker, and as many curious kids do, she peeked inside.
Oh.
She was horrified to discover that it contained a man's right foot. It was a size 12 and was later identified as belonging to a missing man who had been suffering from depression.
Size 12. How tall was this man? And
well, that's not that. I mean, that's a pretty normal
12?
size. As we will see. I'm going to keep going. As we'll see. SEA. Dad joke. All right.
And you're not even one. Oh my God. Nailed it.
Only 6 days later, another man's right foot in another size 12 white Reebok was discovered by a couple on Gabriola Island in British Columbia. Police were stunned. 2 being found in such a short period of time is suspicious.
How far apart again?
6 days.
6 days. Wow.
So, quote, 2 being found in such a short period of time is suspicious, Gary Cox of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
His shoe is size 12.
Is the foot correspond to the size of the Gary Cox?
Okay, I'm a nurse. I'll tell you, it's hands.
No.
It's hands.
Hands do? So Bigfoot should have a... Okay.
100%.
We've talked about this before. You'll be able to get that special episode on Patreon in March. All right. So Gary Cox said that 2 being found in such a short period of time is suspicious. Finding 1 foot is like 1,000,000 to 1 odds. But to find 2 is crazy. I've heard of dancers with 2 left feet, but come on.
Oh,
But bump. King of the dad jokes, Gary Cox.
Yeah, that is not. Yeah, okay.
Nice try there, Cox.
Cox down. Cox down.
Cox
okay. Flaccid. Fell flaccid.
Mr. Cox, that fell flaccid. Okay. The mystery did not stop there. On February 8th, 2008, another man's right foot in a size 11 Nike was discovered on Valdez Island.
So this is all right feet, all within a short period of time. Is this when it enters our radar? Like, I remember it coming on the news. Hey, there's this weird thing happening. Is this the time era?
And we will talk more about that at the end. I'm going to go through all the discoveries. Exactly. It's getting into the zeitgeist, right?
Okay, yeah.
On May 22nd, a woman's right foot in a blue and white New Balance sneaker was found on Kirkland
Oh, she strayed away.
Right. It was an island in the Fraser Delta. Now, this one was not thought to have anything to do with the ones found on the Gulf Islands, as it had most likely been washed down the Fraser River. This foot was later identified as belonging to a woman who had jumped from the Potillo Bridge in New Westminster in April of 2004. Now, this is 2008. It took 4 years for this to wash up and be discovered.
Holy cow. So how decayed is this? 4 years.
I did not see how decayed it was.
Yeah, it's got to be just bone, right? Like,
well, it was in a sneaker, so the sneaker's helping to preserve it a little bit.
Okay.
Because then it can't be, the foot inside the sneaker is not being eaten by
Sure, but it's not dissolving away either by bacteria. And
I mean, remember the Salish Sea is fairly cold. So that's going to help preserve it a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the salt water too probably helps preserve a little bit.
Pickled.
It's pickled.
It's a pickled foot.
Yum.
Oh, God. Okay, step too far, Shay.
Okay.
Oh, my God, what is wrong with this?
On June 16th, 2008, a man's left foot now in a size 11 high-top shoe was found on West Ham Island.
High top, so more foot preserved.
Exactly. It was later determined that this was the match to the foot found on February 8th on Valdez Island.
Both feet now.
Yes, it is bonkers that both feet were not only found, but found on different islands. The remains were later identified as a 24-year-old Surrey man who had been reported missing 4 years earlier.
That's insane. So like both feet washed up, different islands, different
within
terrace.
a year of each other.
Wow.
4 years after he had been reported missing, and they think that it was a death by suicide.
Dang. But nothing else about this man has been found, just his 2 shoes.
I couldn't find anything. I didn't see anything.
Wow.
I didn't look very hard though either. Okay. On August 1st, 2008, a right foot inside a man's size 11 black shoe was discovered in seaweed. It was covered in seaweed on a beach near Fisht, Washington. Are you familiar with Pysht? Fisht. I've never heard of fish.
It's a noise.
I live in Washington.
It's not even a word. It's a noise.
Have you ever heard of fish?
No. I've lived here
of weird names in Washington.
All but 2 years of
be the weirdest.
All but 4 years of my life. The first 2 and a couple 2 in the middle. That I've lived here my whole life and have not heard that.
I mean, we have Ponderay, which is pronounced Ponderay, but it's spelled Point Oriole, sung about in a Macklemore song.
Right.
I love it. Okay. August 1st, 2008, Fish, Washington. Fished. The area is in the Strait of Juan de Fuca, which is a body of water between I wrote a bloody of water.
Oh, no. It can be. There's orcas and sharks.
I know. There's a lot of blood in that water. It is between Vancouver Island and Washington State, and it is the main outlet for the Salish Sea into the Pacific Ocean.
Shay, it is literally one of my favorite places to be. If you haven't been there yet.
Floating around in the Strait of Juan de Fuca?
100%. I've done it on my boat. I've done it on a kayak. There is something majestic. When you're up there and you're in that water, it is overwhelming and majestic. There's something about it that's just, it encompasses your soul. I love the Salish Sea. Now that I know about the feet, though, it might change my opinion.
Oh, real quick, for those of you who aren't in the Pacific Northwest or maybe just don't know about this area of it, because maybe you live in Idaho.
Right.
No shade.
Oregon.
You live in Idaho.
I mean, why would you know about the San Juan Islands and the Salish Sea?
Northern California. Okay.
You probably know in Alaska.
So the Salish Sea is one of the world's largest inland seas, and it is named after the first inhabitants of the region, the Coast Salish. It encompasses the Puget Sound, the San Juan Islands, and the waters off of Vancouver, BC. So we've got the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and we've also got Strait George. It has 4,642 miles of coastline, 419 islands, and a sea surface area of about 6,535 square miles. And we will include a map of this on our Instagram and Facebook page. So
you know how deep it is.
Get an idea. I did not put that down, but I did read it. It's pretty deep.
It's really deep.
I think there was like 2,600 feet.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember kayaking and our guide told us, and I looked down and I was terrified. And I'm like, Jody, what does it matter after 10 feet?
Yeah. It's a little bit deeper than Crater Lake, which is about 2,000 feet deep. So on November 11th, 2008, a woman's left foot was discovered floating in the Fraser River in a New Balance sneaker.
Okay,
Later,
what's our count now?
9.
Oh,
This is the 9th foot.
Wow.
Later, it was determined that this was the match to the foot found on May 22nd on Kirkland Island. Feet went quiet for about a year.
Huh.
They were just tiptoeing. That was dumb. That was real bad.
No, I loved it.
I mean, I don't know why, but I'm thinking about like what was happening in late 2008, early 2009. The only thing I can think is that when we were starting to get really into the recession.
Right. Because these are so far suicides when we've been able to identify, right? Like what's causing people to do this?
I think mostly it's been people who have drowned on purpose. So on October 27th, 2009, a man's right foot in a size 8.5 Nike running shoe. It keeps autocorrecting to show.
Oh, why?
I don't know.
A running show?
A running show was found on a beach in Richmond, BC. The foot was later identified as belonging to a Vancouver area man who was reporting missing in January of 2008. And then another good chunk of time goes by. On August 27th, 2010, a woman's or child's right foot was found without a shoe or sock on Whidbey Island. Now we're in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
It had been in the water for about 2 months and was never identified. A right foot belonging to either a child or a small adult was found in Tacoma, Washington on the tidal flats. The foot was in a boy's size 6 Ozark Trail hiking boot, and it was found on December 5th, 2010.
Boys. So, oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember hearing this one.
I don't either. I was here. On August 30th, 2011, a foot of undeterminable sex was found in a man's white and blue size 9 runner, floating next to the Plaza of Nations Marina back in good old Falls Creek, BC. This marina, this was interesting, is almost directly across the bay from where our very first foot was discovered in the 1800s.
The leg and boot?
Uh-huh. Directly across the bay.
Wow.
Also, it wasn't just a foot. The lower leg bones were attached.
Again.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this was in a shoe, not a boot. But yet the whole leg stayed maintained.
It is coincidence, but it is an interesting coincidence.
Yes, for sure.
At Sasamat Lake in BC, I may be saying that wrong, the right foot of a local fisherman who had gone missing in 1987 was discovered by campers on November 4th, 2011. Can you believe that?
That's like a retro shoe right there.
I know. That's crazy.
That is crazy. And so it probably
crazy. So he probably had drowned. His body was at the bottom of the lake, and then his foot finally came detached and finally floated up.
Popped on up.
Yeah.
What lake was this?
Sasamat Lake. So
not related to the Salish Sea.
I don't know. I'd have
or
to look
is it
and
off
see
the Salish Sea?
If it is off of Salish Sea or not. It may be unrelated, but it's a foot. And I'm not laughing about the feet. It's just the whole thing is a little bit
bizarre.
Morbid and bizarre. Which sometimes all you can do is laugh.
Why feet? Why feet? Why not hands? Why not head? Why not?
Right.
Right.
Well,
why not a shirt?
There's a reason.
Yeah.
Which we will get to.
All right. Right.
On December 10th, 2011, we head back to Washington. A human leg and foot were found in a black plastic bag under the Ship Canal Bridge in Lake Union.
This cannot be suicide.
No.
Okay.
Where do you come across
I've
the body?
watched iMuch ID channel that all bodies come in plastic bags, garbage bags, black ones on the side of the road.
Plastic bags.
On the side of the road. Or any random place. If you see a garbage bag, a black garbage bag,
I always think there's a body in there.
There's a body
right,
in
that's
it,
what I always think.
And this time it was just a leg.
It was never identified. Yeah, that had to have been foul play because you don't come across a suicide.
I'm going to wrap my leg in a plastic bag before I kill myself.
Just to mess with people.
Oh my God, I might actually. If I get to that point, I might mess with people.
So far we have talked about 15, count it, 15
That's
disarticulated feet found in the Salish Sea greater area spanning over 100 years. And we aren't done.
Wow.
There is still more afoot.
Shut up. I cannot believe you're not a father. All signs point to you being a real dad.
I'm a great dad.
I mean, if your jokes are any indication, fantastic. World renowned.
So when I finally get my dog, you're going to be like, she's a dog dad.
Yes.
You're really like, why are you calling her a dog
she
dad?
Is.
It's like, she has the best dad jokes. You're so bad.
It's freaking happening.
All right. A boot with human bones inside was found on January 6, 2012 in the sand along the water at a dog park in Vancouver. Now, this did not mention if a dog found it or a human.
Oh, yeah. Just walks up with it.
That's
Hi, look what I found at the beach.
That's where
in their mouth. Oh my
Is
God.
that worse than having to pull desiccated cat turds out of your dog's mouth?
No, because this is definitely more intriguing. Like, at least there's a mystery on the other end.
There's no mystery about the desiccated cat turds.
No, the cat turds are just like, God dang it. The leg's like, wow, what the heck?
I had to pry his jaws open to get the cat turd out. It was like desiccated, and he was like,
"Oh, it's old even." No, okay, this happened to me once. I had a pit bull, and I did this, and I get it out of his mouth. It's a fucking rabbit, and I mean, it is powdery, decayed in my living room. And I'm like, oh my God, no! I'm like, I kept going. So I actually walked by it like 24 times, going, that stuffed animal needs thrown out. And God, it stinks. And so finally, I'm like, no, there's a reason.
That's so gross.
This is a bunny from long ago.
That's so disgusting.
And dusty.
Oh, God. That's pretty bad.
It's so bad.
Either way, you go and you brush your dog's teeth.
Yeah.
Moving on. So we're going to go fast through these next several.
I'll behave myself.
All right. A foot in a white New Balance was found on the shoreline of Centennial Park in Seattle, Washington on May 6, 2014.
Okay, hold on. I have to say, a white New Balance. This was a
probably bought at Costco.
50, right. It was bought at Costco. This is a 55-year-old white male.
Right. Hey, do not shit on buying your clothes at Costco. This is from Costco. This is from Costco. These socks are from Costco. Is that from Costco?
Yeah, that's why I don't go to Costco. I end up buying all the clothes.
Damn it. Hashtag Costco fashionista.
Yes. I am very comfortable right now. Thank you very much.
I'm fine. I've really started to give up caring what I look like to other people as long as I'm comfortable. Okay. On February 7th, 2016, hikers found a foot in a sock and running shoe on Botanical Beach on Vancouver Island. 5 days later, its mate washed up near Port Renfrew, close to the prior location. December 8th, 2017, remains of a leg and foot washed up near Jordan River on Vancouver Island. On May 6, 2018, a hiking boot with a human foot inside was found on Gabriola Island. We're back to Gabriola Island. A size 9.5 light gray Nike with a foot inside was found on the shore in West Vancouver. On January 1st, 2019, a foot in a boot was found on Jetty Island near Everett, Washington. It was later tied to a man named Antonio Neal, missing since December 2016. Almost 3 years. Almost there. We're staying in Washington. On November 21st, 2021, a size 7 Brahma work boot was found washed up on Locust Beach near Bellingham. December of 2021, a size 8 New Balance washed up on the mouth of the Elwha River in Port Angeles, Washington. They later tied it to Geraldine L. Smith, who went missing from Sequim in January of 2018. For all of you out there who don't live in the Pacific Northwest, Sequim is another one that is commonly mispronounced because it is spelled Sequim.
Sequim. Sequim. Sequim.
Sequim. And last but not least, the 26th foot in our story was found on July 23rd, 2023.
Ooh.
On Gonzales Beach in Victoria, BC.
Wow.
Now, so why do we keep finding these grisly bits of flotsam on our beaches in the Pacific Northwest?
I want a hand, an arm, something, nothing, just feet and shoes.
I mean, is it a serial killer who's into feet? Is it a plane crash in the nearby ocean? Drowning victims that have been trying to cross the border?
Well, I was thinking about people like getting on cargo ships trying to get here.
That's one theory.
Yeah.
But authorities and scientists have concluded that the reason we keep finding feet is for a few reasons.
Oh, few.
First, when a body is in the sea, scavengers go for the more tender, exposed bits. Often this is the ankle where the skin is thin, and there is not much actually holding your foot onto the rest of your leg, just some ligaments and tendons, right?
Right. And those bones there's like several little bones, right?
Sebastian the crab is picking away at this new...
Is he speaking in an accent?
Yes.
Okay.
At this floating buffet.
Suddenly this is not weird and creepy anymore, and it's entertaining and fun. Lighthearted and childlike.
Be our guest. Be our guest. Eat that ankle in the sea. And pretty quickly the foot is disarticulated from the leg. So in 2007, a study by Simon Fraser University showed that a corpse could be reduced to a skeleton in as few as 4 days by all of the hungry critters in the sea.
And is that at the bottom of the sea we're talking about crustaceans, or do they just float and something?
A pig's carcass under something that would keep it submerged, but it was still floating.
Oh,
as far as what I could see.
So it wasn't sitting on the bottom.
So the crabs will swim up.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're somewhere near the bottom, but they're not sitting necessarily.
Like, you've got these big beds of seaweed, and sometimes animal carcasses will get caught in that. And so scavengers will just hang out and eat on the stuff that's in there. So why doesn't the foot sink to the sea floor? Well, there has been a big change in sneaker design since the early 2000s. So modern athletic shoes utilize a lot of lightweight foam that has been injected with air, making the shoes and the feet inside of them more buoyant.
So this is why it's more of a recent issue, that it's more frequent.
Notice this mostly is happening since the 2000s.
So what you're telling me is before the 2000s, we just have a lot of shoes on the bottom of the sea floor.
Sure.
They just didn't make it up.
Yeah, they're most likely now to float up to be able to be washed ashore to be discovered.
That part's a new phenomenon.
So the unique occurrence of water movement within the Salish Sea also has something to do with it. According to oceanography professor Parker McCready of the University of Washington, in an interview to Vox, he said things that float at the ocean surface move with the currents, but are also pushed a bit by the wind, and this can be significant in getting them to shore. The prevailing winds here are west to east, and so floating stuff in this part of the Pacific gets blown to the coast effectively. So the large and complex body of water of the Salish Sea acts as a trap. Another factor may be a phenomenon called frequency illusion, also known as the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. Frequency illusion was coined by Stanford linguistics professor Arnold Zwicky. I love that last name. Zwicky. It is essentially a cognitive bias in which a person notices a specific concept, word, or product after recently becoming aware of it. So when you buy a Cadillac, all of a sudden you see Cadillacs everywhere, right?
Okay, so that's the what phenomenon? The
Bader-Meinhof or frequency illusion.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, that happens to me a lot. Like I'll be like, oh, Apple Jacks. Oh, now I see Apple Jacks everywhere, and I haven't talked about Apple Jacks since 1984.
Exactly.
Got ya.
For the Pacific Northwest, there were several news pieces about feet being found on beaches. So now everyone on the beach looks for shoes and then looks inside of them to see if there's a foot. Where before, maybe you just thought it was a piece of sea trash.
Right.
Perhaps instead of the frequency of feet being washed up on shore increasing, it was just increased awareness. So it's a mix of selective attention, keeping an eye out for something, and confirmation bias. More feet have been found, so more feet are being washed up.
Got it.
So it's just
that
cognitive bias.
Like, does that mean we didn't used to look in shoes? Because I think everybody always would have been curious finding a foot in a shoe. Are we we're more curious now about what's in the shoe?
Because there's the awareness that people have been finding feet in shoes.
Okay, so now we're going to be looking for it.
Instead of just walking on the beach, now you're looking where at the shoreline, and then when you see a shoe, you're going to look inside it, where maybe before you're like, ew, gross. Right. And you stay away from it.
Well, that's the same thing as my black plastic bag, my garbage bag. Exactly. I would never, ever, I'd be like, ooh, gross, who dumped their garbage? And I'm like, oh my God, there's a body over there.
Exactly. So that's the same sort of thing.
Yes. Gotcha.
That's the case of the Salish Sea Feet
so it's
Discoveries.
Not as mysterious as it seems. There's answers behind these. Many of these have been identified. I didn't know that for some reason in my recollection of the story, and obviously I haven't gone deep into it. A lot of them been tied
to missing persons, and most of those people they think were probably suicides.
Gotcha.
Well, I want to finish with a little quote. So this was the last time that the last foot was found in 2023. So as Ryan Panton of the BC Coroner Service wrote, "It's not the first time we investigated an incident of this nature." So my main source was the great Wikipedia page, the Salish Sea Human Foot Discoveries. And there was also a great article on allthat'sinteresting.com. There's lots of articles out there. I also listened to an episode on Stuff You Should Know, which is a great podcast, and an episode on the Ghoulish Tendencies podcast, which is another great one that I just recently discovered. Not a whole lot of mystery, really, about them.
No. There's no other theories out there that we could run with that are
there was
exciting.
A theory for a while. There's a serial killer that was in Canada. I think his name was like Robert Picton. And he...
Oh, isn't he like the one that fed his victims to his pigs?
His pigs and then would feed people the pigs?
Yeah.
He was like a modern... Hannibal Lecter.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to do a piece on him at some point when we get into yeah. But for now, there's not a whole lot that's
they thought maybe he'd been tossing feet.
Yeah, but no, it's modern sneaker design. It's the Salish Sea's special properties, and then it's that cognitive bias.
So there's real answers to this mystery.
Yes, there is, but it still is mysterious. And if you are walking on a beach in the Pacific Northwest and you find a shoe,
especially near the Salish Sea, we aren't all near Salish Sea in the Pacific Northwest. If you are in the Salish Sea, keep your eye out for a sneaker.
Look in that shoe.
You're walking along the rocks, the seashore. You keep your eye out.
If you want to be part of that. If you don't want anything to do with that, don't look at a shoe. You don't know. Probably all you're going to find is a crab and some seaweed. Most likely. Yeah. I will post. I have a fantastic photograph of a shoe on a beach that I took at my happy place, Harstein Island, last summer. And it was...
But there's no foot in it?
There's no foot in it, but it was covered in seaweed. And it's just a great photograph. So I will post that on our social media. It's so good. But I definitely looked inside of it because I thought of this immediately. See?
This is literally
what
spurred this entire adventure, Rainy Day Rabbit Holes.
was Harstein Island.
And talking about this specific topic as well as others. But like this did come into our, hey, there's so many weird things in the Pacific Northwest. This was on the top of the list. So, because I've always wondered and never put a lot into it because I've, like I said,
it's just one of those mysteries floating
out there. It's a mystery out there, and I'm always looking
into
other mysteries. I've never made it to this one. So thank you for answering this for me. I'm not exactly happy that it's not that much of a mystery. I mean, you may have ruined it for
something
me.
More nefarious.
I did want nefarious. I mean, it could have been aliens. Hey, Bigfoot could have been just eating everything but the foot. But
he doesn't know.
But no.
He doesn't know how to work shoelaces.
It's just the Salish Sea and modern sneaker design. Thanks, Shay.
Bigfoot only has Velcro sneakers because he does not know how to work shoelaces.
Right. So if you're in laces, your feet are safe, but you are not. No, that's not what came from this story.
So thank you for answering
it.
If you were the old man who buys his Velcro New Balance, your feet will probably never be found because
that's
Bigfoot can handle the Velcro sneakers.
Yep, they're just not safe. We're just never gonna find any part of you if you're wearing Velcro.
So if you wear Doc Martens, though, I bet your feet would never, because they will sink. Those things are heavy.
Yep.
Let's wrap this up. So guys, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for listening, and please again go and follow us on Spotify. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us wherever you can follow us. Everywhere.
And leave reviews.
And more importantly, please share the podcast with your friends and family and anybody you know, your coworkers.
Anyone you know.
As long as they won't be offended by Titty Shack.
Right. You gotta have some sense of humor.
Yeah, you gotta have a sense of humor. So maybe not your church group. I mean, just saying. I mean, maybe. I don't know.
maybe select episodes for your church.
But what we need, guys, is to grow our listenership, because it is not until we have lots of listeners and lots of downloads that people will come and offer us money, and podcasts are not free to produce. So it would be great just to pay ourselves back and support this, and then we can support better quality audio, and then we can maybe have giveaways and fun stuff.
Right. We want to expand this to include you. We want to include our listeners a lot more.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. We want the people here in the Pacific Northwest to be part of this, not just us talking to you. Well, we will see you next time, and until then,
see you down the rabbit hole.
It's disrespectful.
Right. It's so funny. This is doing the hospital with his feet.